everybody. This is Liz from Augusta, and today I have someone that I've been wanting you to be able to meet and hear their story. And we're going to start by having him introduce himself and tell us where he's from and a little bit about himself.
Oh, my name is Eric, and I'm a franchisee down in Largo, Florida, which, for those who don't know, it's just a little bit west of Tampa, Central Florida. Um, and what was the other part of the question? I'm sorry.
Oh, just a little bit about yourself. So
Oh,
I can help with that. When you were born, were you born there and grew up there?
yeah. So I'm actually originally from the Chicago area in Illinois. Um, Lived there for about half my life. I moved down to Florida, uh, just mostly to get away from the snow, like most people, and have been in Florida for about 10 years now. I was in North Florida for about 6 years, and then been in Central Florida for the last four. Um, and this is where I started getting into lawn care.
Excellent. So when you were a kid, did you think that you would be in lawn care, or kind of what was your dream and your goal?
Growing up, especially the younger years, my dream job was really something different every couple of years. I wanted to be a firefighter. I wanted to go into video game design for many years. And kind of like as I was exploring the different things, kind of ruled them out as options. So I was a little aimless coming out of high school. Um, I didn't have anything I wanted to pursue academically, so the college route didn't really make sense to me because at least the little bit of understanding of finances I had was that college is expensive.
Yes.
So I didn't want to kind of go down that journey unless there was something that was really worthwhile at the end of it. So kind of just started going into the workforce and finding my way. Mostly did warehouse work. Um, the company I was working for quite a while in Illinois is actually who I transferred with into Florida. That was kind of like my ticket down.
Nice.
Um, and then I was kind of bouncing around a few other jobs and was kind of just unsatisfied with the work environment and kind of the track of growth and, kind of managing my managers and things like that. Um, and it just kind of eventually became more and more clear that I should try doing something on my own.
Interesting. So what was it about you that was having a hard time being an employee?
Um, I guess it was the accountability
Mm,
to the management, but then also to the coworkers. It's just very common where one person in a department's doing the work of three people, and sometimes in those situations, even making less than the other people that
yes.
you're working with. And for anyone who's a high performer, that's an extremely frustrating uh, experience. So yeah, that quickly puts a bad taste in your mouth in any workplace.
Yeah, no kidding. What kind of industry was that in?
So most of the time, I was working in like a food service warehouse. It's kind of like bulk
Oh, okay.
grocery, so similar to like a Sam's Club type deal, operating forklifts and things like that. So I had some like equipment experience, but not necessarily
Mhm.
anything with mowing. I did mow a yard, like my own yard here
Yeah,
and there with an old rusty mower,
yeah,
um, but nothing to like a high quality.
yeah, yeah. So how did you first hear about Augusta?
Augusta, like most of us, through YouTube and Mike's channel. Really, what kind of got me towards lawn care was YouTube in general, um, and kind of started off with Keith Kalfis, Blaze of Grass, and John in Florida Turf Pros was a big inspiration as well, being
Mhm.
in like my region, and then along that way finding Mike, and then really quickly seeing like a distinct difference in his content versus a lot of the other lawn care content on YouTube. I was just nuts and bolts and actual like the business side of it,
Yeah,
and that like really caught my attention, and just rabbit hole. And fortunately, he puts out a ton of things on YouTube for people to consume and learn.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So you had started this journey of wanting to look for something to do on your own, and so you didn't think it would be lawn care, right? You just had your feelers out to see what you could do.
Yeah, it wasn't like the first thing that came to my mind. Pressure washing was
Mhm.
kind of like the big one I was looking at initially. Moving company. I did work for a tree service company when I was in Jacksonville for a little while. So that was kind of like my first exposure to a small business and also like working outside.
Mhm.
And that was like a big flip from corporate warehouse work that I was kind of used to. Being outdoors was really alluring to me. So then I knew I kind of want to do something home service related and lawn care. I guess mostly Mike just sold me on the recurring revenue benefits.
Yeah, yeah. So was that all from listening, or had you scheduled a couple calls, sales calls to just find out a little more about it?
um, so it was pretty quickly, right around the time when I was exploring the I had started a operation part time, and I was still working 40, 50 hours and doing it on the weekends. And as that kind of got some traction, and I was looking at the Augusta franchise opportunity, and I was very slim on capital, of course, trying to figure out the
Yeah.
business thing. And it was really right. I had decided, okay, another year of lawn care to save up to buy into the locations. And it was maybe within a few days of me kind of coming to that conclusion that the sole operator model became an
Awesome.
option.
Yeah.
So I kind of like made up my mind. And then a few days later, that got announced. And I was like, well, the timing is just serendipitous.
Yeah.
So I took it as a sign to just dive in.
That's awesome. So for the listener, can you explain to them what the solo operator is, does, what that model looks like?
Yeah. So the growth model is a bigger upfront cost. Just got raised to 22,000. I think it was probably 15,000 when I was first looking at the franchise, late 2021. Um, so it's a bigger buy-in, but then you have a protected territory and access to all of these services Command Center offers, answering phone, email management, payroll, all of the office stuff. And for the solo operator model, it was a lower price to buy in. I believe it was around 7,000 at the time. I'm not sure what it's at currently because it's been a few years. Um, and so you don't get a protected territory as a solo operator. Um, and then your access to command center services is a little limited, but they take care of the phone and estimate creation. Um, and I wasn't a very big company at the time, but just having phone support so I
Mhm.
could focus on the business was a really big selling point for me. So um, even though you don't have access to all of Command Center, I think the bulk of the power of Command Center is in the phone answering. So the sole operators still get access to that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when did you join?
It was the October 2021 is when I talked to Lee.
So you've gone
So,
through almost 2 full seasons then.
yep, I brand transitioned at the beginning of 2022, and yeah, went through 2023.
So
So
how
almost
was
two.
it? The first spring as compared to the second? Can you tell us the differences between the 2 years?
Yeah, they were both had their peaks and valleys for different
Yeah,
reasons. The first year, kind of spent all my money, the little bit of money I had getting into the franchise, getting the truck branded, and getting everything set up. So um, I had about 60 recurring customers at that time, and I
nice.
also brought on my brother-in-law as my first employee, and quickly taking on all that overhead was like very stressful,
Yes.
especially since I didn't have a lot of capital, a working capital. So the first year was very skinny
Yeah.
and big learning curve, just learning the
Mhm,
Augusta systems. And I mean, I only had 6 months of being full time in the business as an experience. I did it for
mhm,
about 8 months part time before I went full time. So just lawn care in general, business in general, had so
mhm.
much to learn. I mean, even
Yeah,
just the technical aspect of lawn mowing, I wasn't a professional
yeah.
at that point by any means. So a lot to learn, a lot to take in, but um, I'm very, very thankful for it. And um, spring was tough, being skinny, and also
Mhm.
learning the seasonality.
Yeah.
For anyone outside of Florida, we don't have a typical spring rush. It's more of a summer rush when we have our rainy months, and
Mhm.
so getting a handle on that is challenging as well. And so this year, I was a lot more confident, a lot more prepared. Um, had more capital, but of course I
Yeah.
went into another truck, equipment,
Yep, yep.
and all of that. Um, so, and then, well, this year had a big monkey wrench. A few weeks before spring, I found out that I needed to have
Oh,
a lumbar
no.
spinal fusion surgery. So I was really geared up and ready to go hard this year with
Yeah.
everything I learned the previous year, and found out I was going to be out of the field for 4+ months.
Oh, my
Um,
word.
uh, so I really went on the defensive
Yeah.
and slimmed things down, and I had one reliable employee. So I tried to structure things to where one person can manage all the field work until I was healed up and able to work again. That
Mhm.
ended up backfiring, and then I needed to hire
Oh, man.
shortly after anyway. So, um, you know, in hindsight, I should have just bit the bullet and started hiring and training beforehand. But
Yeah.
you know, lesson learned.
Yep.
Um, So yeah, just navigating the delegation and not being able to take care of the field work myself
Mhm.
was very difficult.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, it forced me to grow on like a personal and business level.
Mhm.
Um, so it's a net positive at the end of the day.
Yeah. So where were you revenue-wise when you started, and did you meet your goals for this year?
So last year we did one about 160
Awesome.
and 160,000, and this year we're tracking to do about 210, 220 if we could keep strong through the winter months.
Yeah.
So surprisingly, I mean, I'm a little reserved with my revenue goals, and I've taken a little bit of a slow and gradual mindset to my
Yeah.
growth. So yeah, 2 to 250 was kind of what I was shooting for this year. So kind of landed right in that mark,
Awesome.
fortunately. So was able to still grow through all the difficulties and challenges,
Mhm.
and um, come out better for it.
Yeah. So when you were recovering, what were you doing with that time? Were you routing, dispatching, still trying could you walk?
So for the first 6 weeks, not very much.
Mhm.
And well, actually, for the first 6 weeks, I couldn't drive either. But the
Mhm.
first couple of weeks, yeah, walking was very difficult. Just basic maneuvering was very difficult, and so I
Yeah.
also had to learn how to lean on family for a lot of help.
Yeah.
And uh, that's definitely became very obvious to me that that's something I need to get better at,
Yeah.
is being able to ask for help. Um, I don't know. I guess it's just stubbornness. Um, but yeah, after a few, I was able to walk. So with the time, once I was able to like sit upright, because initially it was just like basically being in bed.
Mhm.
I was upright, just spending time learning, keeping the operations on the back end, dispatching and everything, and
Mhm.
managing customers, and then also doing everything possible that I didn't have to offload to command center. Spent the time learning, running through courses, and landscape business course and MBA for entrepreneurs,
Awesome.
and yeah, always working on something.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so you didn't waste that time at all. So in that regard, it was a positive because you would have never had the time to do those things.
Yeah, and once I was able to walk, that's when I really went into door hangers.
Mhm.
And actually,
Awesome.
walking was like the number one thing to help with my recovery. So
Okay.
once I was on my feet, I was like on my feet all day.
Yeah. And how did you feel about the results of that?
It was pretty good overall. Learning curve on some things,
Yeah,
timing, and picking the right neighborhoods, fishing in the right ponds, rather.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but I was able to pick up a good bit of clients with that, and it was also good for me to just like be boots on the ground in the neighborhoods and kind of figuring
Mhm.
out like firsthand the neighborhoods I did want to build more route density in, and maybe some of the neighborhoods was like, well, we have a property over here, but don't necessarily need to like spider web.
Yeah,
Um, and the efforts are like better focused in other areas, and then also dialing in pricing was a big thing too.
yeah. Were you doing the instant quotes where you're actually putting the prices for mowing and cleanups?
Yeah, I didn't have the cleanup one. I was a little more nervous about being way off on the project work,
Yeah.
and I was kind of just honed in on the mowing side of it. And then in the summer, it was, yeah, June, when I was able to kind of move around a lot more. I also brought on help, so I had a lot of capacity to fill for just
Yeah.
my 2 employees, so, the pressure was on a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I just was trying to get as many mowing customers as possible.
That's great. So what has it when you buy in like that, you save a little bit up front, but you're still, like you said, slim in the cash area. So what was your method of marketing at the beginning?
So, initially, I was trying everything. Coming out of training,
Yeah.
I was trying everything. I did a few EDDM,
Mhm.
campaigns, every door direct mail.
Mhm.
I was doing door hangers, Google ads, Google local services. I tried Facebook ads. I was doing Nextdoor. So I was trying a little bit of everything starting out because I had a lot of capacity to fill,
Mhm.
bringing on my first employee. And that kind of got slimmed down to mostly Google ads, Google local services were like the big drivers for me.
Mhm. That's fantastic. Yeah. And so this year, what was your plan? What did you go into for marketing this year?
So this year I was kind of just gonna run back the same things that were successful last
Mhm.
year. So Google ads and Google local services. And then I forget exactly what the door hangers became a big thing again too,
Yes.
especially with the instant quote option.
Yes.
Um, that was major. And I didn't have a huge marketing plan because initially when I went into spring, I was on the defensive and I was like cutting out customers and
Yeah.
raising prices to try to make it manageable for one person, but then ended up not working out. So once I did have to get active marketing again, door hangers was like the big driver of that for
Yeah.
this year.
Awesome. Awesome. That's great to hear. So looking forward for your goals, what are you thinking? You're conservative, you said, but it sounds like you're realistic.
Yeah, I definitely try to be at least.
Yeah.
So I did have, a lot more drive at the beginning of this past year that kinda got
Yeah.
hindered, so I kinda have that pent up,
Yeah.
and, now that I have more experience managing a couple of employees and going through interviewing process, because that was, like, the big thing for me this year was just
Mhm.
getting reps of running through the interview process, qualifying candidates, and then getting good systems for training.
Yeah.
Um, so me being more comfortable with that, I feel more comfortable to try to have a more growth that would require more employees.
Mhm.
So hopefully I can overhire ahead of spring.
Mhm.
And capital isn't massive due to me being unproductive or not producing labor revenue for most of the year,
Mhm.
and also having the medical bills that go along with that.
No kidding.
Um, but I'll be exploring probably opening up a business line of credit just to give me a little stimulus in the
Yeah.
beginning of the year to at least start up some momentum going through spring and then into summer. But hopefully, I can have 2 guys in both of the trucks. Hopefully by summer
Mhm.
is what I'm thinking for this next year.
Awesome. So how has it been for you being in the Augusta community?
Oh, it's been wonderful. Really, really helpful. A lot of great people. Um, a lot of like-minded people. We're all kind of working
Mhm.
towards the same or very similar goals. Um, there's a big culture of personal development, which I really enjoy,
Mhm.
and supporting and pushing each other to grow.
Yeah.
Um, that's like the big value of Augusta to me. Command center answering the phones, but also having like a community of owners
Yeah.
to learn and grow with, go from and together, and also being able to help other people along the way that are maybe like in the stages before you.
Mhm.
And by teaching, you learn on a deeper level. So it's really great to have people ahead of you at your level and behind you, all for different reasons, but all getting better together.
Yeah, it's awesome. So what are your main forms of connecting with everyone? Is it the Facebook group or do you have a WhatsApp with the others in your state?
Yeah, so it would be primarily the Facebook group. Quite a few people are very active in there, and
Mhm.
I can ask a question and get an answer like pretty promptly.
Yeah.
Within a few hours, someone will be able to chime in, and then the next day you'll have a few different perspectives on whatever the issue was.
Mhm.
And Also, getting the Mike's Minutes Masterminds is
Yeah.
a massive aspect as well. The Florida franchisees, we do have a WhatsApp group. Um, we're not super active in that,
Yeah.
but we're working on
How many are there of you?
I believe 10, and there's at least one or
Wow.
two starting in the next couple of months.
That's incredible. That's a lot.
Yeah, I think we're only beat by Texas, and I know Washington has quite a few as well.
Yeah. That's
Um,
phenomenal. So what services can you offer in Florida? Can you offer mowing year round?
yes, to an extent. It kind of depends on the clientele and like kind of how much they take care of their yard.
Mhm.
Um, I know some of the other franchisees are pretty consistent through. In my area, at least, the bulk of my customers, not a whole lot of irrigation and not whole lot of treatments.
Yeah.
So things definitely do still slow down in winter, but for most people, I could at least keep them on for a monthly cut
Mhm.
through the winter. If they don't want, our winter service offering, which is, for those that don't know, is basically something Mike came up with to keep recurring work through the winter months
Mhm.
and kind of just upkeep people's property, keeping the edges nice, trimming bushes, pulling weeds, anything that kind of needs to be done at the property. So kind of how I structure that is, if they do sign up for winter services, it's mowing service as needed, which typically works out to once a month cut, and then
Mhm.
the second biweekly visit of the month will just work on whatever else on the property needs to be done.
That's awesome. So how did you do on winter services last year? Did you try it?
Yeah, so last year was the first year doing it, and I was pretty happy with the amount of retention we had,
Mhm.
of people that were just, willing to continue paying to keep their property looking nice. Um, Only a handful of people paused completely for the winter. If I couldn't
Mhm.
sell them on winter services, I could at least get them on monthly mowing.
Yeah, that's good.
Um, yeah, so just having some work to be able to have as a foundation carrying through is really nice. Um, it did get a little bit challenging to find work to do on some properties if they don't
Mhm.
have very many landscape
Right.
beds or bushes.
Yeah.
Um, you got to get creative,
Yep.
shaking out doormats and
Yes.
whatever. And the gutters is a thing, but I do try to stay off of roofs,
Yeah.
so don't push the gutters too much. But it worked pretty well last year, and I'm excited to see what how it goes this year.
That's pretty cool. So you came to conference not too long ago. I guess it was just a few weeks. And how was
Yep.
that experience for you?
Oh, it was amazing. I always love going to conference. I was fortunate. I think I was the first wave of solo operators, and our training was the couple of days before Landscape Summit.
Oh, sweet.
So I got to go from 3 days of training to 3 days of conference.
Nice.
And so, if I wasn't bought into Augusta before that, I definitely was
No
afterwards. And
kidding.
um, just getting to tap into that network and meeting with other owners and getting so much good knowledge.
Mhm.
Yeah, top to bottom, great experience, summit. And this year is a little closer to us in Florida, so that
Yeah.
was nice, not having as crazy of travel,
Yeah.
and a little better weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great time.
Good. Good. And did you enjoy all the variety of speakers?
Yeah, definitely. I think Mike does a good job of keeping things mixed up year to
Mhm.
year, and I think he likes. But today or this past year or the past event, I should say,
Yeah.
was a little more like small to mid-size,
Mhm.
which kind of where I'm at. So I did relate
Yeah.
to a lot of that, and even mixing it up with like Brian Fullerton, kind of speaking
Mhm.
to keeping the relationships healthy in your life as you grow your
Yeah.
business, was really good to see, because that is just such a important part of life
Mhm. Yeah.
aside from our business life that can easily get neglected. So
Totally.
um, really good mix of topics.
That's great. So you mentioned that you like the self work, the deep work, the changing, the becoming better. What kind of things do you listen to or do to help yourself be better?
Yeah. So I do like to read books, but reading is not a super sharp skill for me. So I do lean heavy on audiobooks,
Mhm.
and YouTube content, podcasts. Um, I kind of silo into business related, but I also like learning about other things. I have Andrew Huberman's podcast. So learning about
Mhm.
health, nutrition are also like areas of interest for me. And really keeping those up to spec helps you in the business side as well. Um, but yeah, I'd say audiobooks and podcasts is like the main thing I dive into
That's awesome. And then you said you didn't have a lot of lawn care experience when you started. So how did you learn?
by doing.
Yeah.
um, I, had experience mowing just the small lawn at the house I live in with a little push mower. But I basically, once I dove in, got a trailer in my first mower. I was just going to friends and family and asking if I could cut their yard just to get reps in and
Yeah.
practice to get familiar with the stander because like pretty different going onto a commercial mower versus just a residential one.
Right.
Um, so just trying to get reps in that way and refine the skills a little bit and then I just started trying to pick up customers and, fortunately have people who were willing to take a chance on a no-name guy.
That's great. Have you had a lot of people just by word of mouth from seeing you around the neighborhoods?
Yeah, definitely the Augusta branding and like having the big yellow truck
Hmm.
helps with that quite a bit. And I wouldn't say a ton of neighbors have like great communities to each other, but a few of them do. So yeah, word of mouth is always a super great way to pick up new people.
When you're just starting out, how do you even know what kind of equipment to buy when you've never used a variety to know what you would like? Did you hop on the Facebook for the franchisees or did you just YouTube it or read reviews?
A little bit of everything. So I had started before joining the franchise. So I kind of leaned heavily on YouTube.
Hmm.
YouTube University, I'm a big fan of, and I pull a lot of inspiration from John from Florida Turf Pros.
Hmm.
I just knew he had a similar market to me, and I figured it was at least a good starting point. And for
Yeah.
the most part, I'm kind of still in that spec of mowers at least that I started with, and it's been working out good for like the typical gate sizes that we have.
Awesome. That is really great to hear. Because I've interviewed other people with zero experience, and I've often wondered, like, where do you go from scratch? Almost it's by reviews of things that you've heard other people use, or do you jump onto Augusta and just like give me a list and I'll go buy everything that you tell me to?
Yeah, I mean it's a lot to there's a lot of options
Yeah.
and there's a lot of good options and I always had Mike in the back of my head from just his YouTube content even before I joined the franchise of like just pick a brand and go with it.
Yeah.
There's always little efficiencies that maybe this is a little better for X and Y, and particular size mower to for the gate sizes that are common to your area. So little things that you could dial in, but for the most part, it's just get started, get the repetitions in, and then you could decide if you need to make a change along the way.
Yeah. I'm sure that's very encouraging for others to hear that are thinking of getting started. And knowing that Mike takes that stance is probably a little bit comforting.
Yeah, definitely. It's really easy to get lost in the options, and Mike speaks to it a lot. Paralysis by analysis,
Mhm.
um, and yeah, overcoming that is super important to get started.
Mhm. So you talked about the solo operator model. What are your goals in the long term? Do you plan to just stay small, try to stay under like the 20,000 amount that puts you up into the growth model, or do you have like a 5-year goal to go up to growth and carry on after that? What are you thinking?
Mhm. So starting in business kind of forced me to be able to take a step back and think further ahead than
Yeah.
just like 1 year to the next was kind of like how I used to operate. Now I kind of have like a 5-year marker in my
Hmm.
mind. And of course, as time goes on, that can move around, but
Right.
having something to work towards is not only motivating, but is just important to direct how you make your decisions along the way. So currently, I'm pretty much on the clock to get upgraded to growth model. I did break 20K in the summer this year, which kind of puts
Fantastic.
yeah, it's exciting. And currently with the sole operator model, once you get over the 20,000 monthly revenue mark, um, then you have, I believe, a year to purchase your full territory and move into a growth model.
So then you're
So
really under pressure to grow, grow, grow so you can pay for that and keep growing, right?
yeah, and costs to grow and growth sucks cash. So
Yeah,
it's kind of a recurring theme in business. It's
yeah,
always bring in the money, and then where do you move it, and then bring in more money.
yeah. So
Um,
you'll be full throttle in growth mode this year, right?
yeah, so that's another aspect to why I'm looking to do a good bit of growth in this upcoming
Mhm.
season. To yeah, manage that overhead, and I'll also get access to the other services and command center, which will free me up a little bit as well,
Yeah.
and make that growth a little bit more achievable. Um, in the yeah, the 5-year view, I plan to get my first location to, in the 5 to 550 annual revenue mark,
Mhm.
and maybe a little bigger. I mean, I'll have to see kind of how I feel at that point,
Yeah.
and how strong of a team I have.
Mhm.
But I kind of plan to get to that range, sit in there for a little while, get things very established,
Mhm.
and even if I don't have like a great leader of a GM, at least having like a reliable couple guys
Yeah.
on the front line that can keep the ship running, with a little bit of management. And then from that point, um, I would like to have at least a second location. In my
Mhm.
mind right now, three is a number in my head. I don't have any particular reason for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but kind of having just like satellite locations, very similar to how
Mhm.
Mike's doing in North Carolina,
Yeah.
the locations he opened up this year, and just having a couple of 5 to 600,000 locations running.
Yeah, that sounds like a very reasonable and very doable goal. Yeah, a great thought process there. So this upcoming winter, have you stopped mowing yet?
No, we're still mowing. Things have slowed down, and at the beginning of October, that's when a lot of people switched to biweekly. So
Mhm.
we could pretty consistently through October, November get biweekly mows. It's in December where things really drop off,
Mhm.
and then that'll be when we start our winter service offering, and hopefully have a good retention with that to have some work, and then we'll just lean into bush trimming and cleanups, and doing a lot of door hanging.
How do you manage your schedule with the rain that you have there? I know it there's when it rains, you guys are pretty much put at a halt, right?
Yeah, for the most part, if it's a lighter rain, we'll work through it. But once it starts raining sideways, and if it's been raining for an extended amount of time, the turf becomes very saturated, and
Mhm.
running a mower over it is going to just cause a lot of damage. Um,
So do
so it's
you budget in a day, a week or something? How do you plan for that?
I wouldn't say that I have like the best management tools for that. Last year, we were very commonly running 6 days a week.
Yeah.
So we were regularly working Saturdays. So just sliding things down as
Yeah.
needed. And
Yeah.
I try to be forethinking with the
Mhm.
weather reports that, okay, if Tuesday and Wednesday are going to be, guaranteed rain, trying to get more done on a Monday. But that
Yeah.
never seems to work out very well. And from one day to the next, the weather is like very different, even from like
Yeah.
hour to hour. There's been times where we call it a rain day at 10, and then it rains for 2 hours and then stops.
Oh man.
So it's yeah, that's the worst thing when you tell a customer you can't make it to their property and they're like, it's a beautiful day outside. Um, so managing the rain is kind of like a moving target.
Yeah.
Um, and it was a big hurdle last year. Um, and especially with managing employee. When I was by myself, I could just start and go whenever the weather allowed.
Yeah.
But of course, having an employee, if you're driving to work, I want you to have the opportunity to make as much money as possible to make like the
Yeah.
commute worth it, even if it's not a long commute, just the time and effort. Um, so it's pretty demoralizing, like come into work and then work an hour and then go home.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
maybe something I kind of overthink, but I just try to be empathetic to the employee side of
Yeah,
it,
that's great.
like the start and stop.
How has it been for you leading employees?
challenging.
Mhm.
I definitely had like some management experience in other jobs I worked in and managing a few people. Um, I don't think I ever got very good at it, but I also never had a solid roster of people to work with, and it was very much a revolving door.
Mhm.
Um, one company in particular where I spent many of my years, it was not an amazing work environment, so it's no surprise that it was a revolving door of
Yeah,
employees, and they wouldn't invest the time to bring in good candidates. So it was just kind of like a mess of always training and never having people
exactly.
equipped. Which for the people that are there and high performers and the trainers, it's a very frustrating experience for them. Um, so that's been like the big challenge of this year, especially once I was out of the field, is like getting those people skills refined a little bit, and also trying to understand the different management style that works for different people.
Yes.
Was a big one too that I'm trying to figure out how to be better at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so does it make you, anxious enough or push you enough that you actually are listening to more leadership books or trying to find out more on how to manage people?
Oh yeah, definitely. Jocko's books are big ones, and then I've revisited those this year
Yeah.
as that became a more of a pain point for me to work on.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's been the focus of a lot of my content consumption.
Do you have family that are affected by your decisions, or are you
Sorry.
pretty much free to kind of chart your course and go for it?
Oh, sorry. Fortunately, I would say I'm pretty free to take risks.
That's good.
Um, yeah, the only dependents I have are two dogs, so
Oh, well. Do
they're
they
pretty
come with you?
flexible. No,
Yeah, that's probably good. They'd be tearing around the lawn after you and biting the mower and all that fun stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been wonderful to have you today. And it's not often that you get a platform to be able to talk to others that are thinking of taking a leap like this. What would you tell somebody that is wanting to do something, not sure what, and they're considering coming into lawn care?
Um, I would definitely encourage you to dip your toes as much as possible. Hopefully, like similar to me, you have a home that you can work on, or just asking friends and family if you can mow their yards, or even your neighbors. Assuming you have access to some kind of equipment. Um, because I'd say the biggest thing, like mowing your yard, spending 30 minutes and then going back inside is very different than doing 10 to 20 yards
Yes.
back to back to back, especially if you're in a warmer climate. So dipping your toes and getting as much experience as possible uh, will kind of help steer your decision making.
Yeah, that is good wisdom. Do you have a quote or anything you want to share with us?
Yes, hard to pick one because I have many that I really like. But I would say change is inevitable, but growth is intentional.
Oh, that's very good. Yeah.
I figured you would like that one.
Yeah, yeah, I love quotes. Do you put them in an app on your phone or something when you're listening to something and find good ones? How do you remember them?
Yeah, I'll jot them down in my notes app, and then I have a whiteboard in the office that I just kind of have collected and over my business journey.
Yeah,
It's
that's
nice to
great.
reference them.
Yeah. Are your employees on board? Do they listen to any of the content, or do you feel like you have to constantly keep them inspired and give them a little bit of a bigger vision to keep them going?
Unfortunately, I have not had an employee that is very driven in that sense.
Yeah.
So,
It's very
I
hard
get,
to get them started.
yeah, so I offer resources and discuss things that I'm learning about, um, but haven't really had many people jump on those opportunities yet.
Yeah, yeah. Well, is there anything else you want to share with us today?
Um, I would say, I guess, kind of just to add another quote to tie
Yeah.
things in is Mike Andy's quote that um, I've really carried. I believe it may have just been from a YouTube video even before I joined Augusta, but um, take more swings.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, just get out of your head and actually putting in the reps will give you clarity into the decisions, whether this is for you, this isn't for you, or you need to make a pivot. Just take more swings, get more reps.
Great note to end on. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate you being willing to come on and share your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you as well. And I mean, I enjoy watching these interviews with the other owners as well. So thank you for putting the time and getting the content out.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.